used to be such a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm very happy-go-lucky.
Demi Moore just dropped the real bomb about why she left Bruce Willis after more than 20 years together, and it's not what anyone expected. For decades, people assumed it was the classic Hollywood story. Busy schedules, too much fame, maybe even cheating rumors. But Demi has finally revealed the truth, and the betrayal wasn't physical, it was psychological. A single moment so crushing that she had no choice but to choose between protecting her marriage or saving herself. And here's the shocking part. Every woman who's ever been told to dim her own light for the sake of her man will feel this in their soul. Demi wasn't just walking away from Bruce. She was reclaiming her dignity, her power, and her voice. What looked like a glamorous fairy tale marriage was really a hidden battleground where love and ego clashed behind closed doors. Demi has receipts too. In her own memoir, she lays it all bare, exposing the moment that flipped her world upside down. And when you hear the words Bruce allegedly said to her at the peak of her success, words she kept locked away for years, it will completely change the way you see their marriage. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a wake-up call, a brutal reminder that love without respect isn't love at all. It's survival. And the wildest twist? Their story didn't start in chaos. It started like a dream. Back in 1987, Bruce was the swaggering star of Moonlighting, on the verge of becoming the world's ultimate action hero with Die Hard. Demi, radiant and unstoppable, thought she was stepping into a forever romance. Instead, it became the fight of her life.
All of my other relationships prepared me for this one.
Demi told ET about eloping after just 4 months of dating.
What was the rush to tie the knot? I don't know, it didn't seem like, there was no rush. We had sort of talked about it laughingly and it just seemed okay.
She says after giving birth to their oldest daughter, Rumor, Bruce wanted her to put her career on hold and be a stay-at-home mom. But she was driven to work.
Demi Moore was already Hollywood royalty, one of the Brat Pack darlings lighting up screens in St. Elmo's Fire. When she crossed paths with Bruce Willis at a movie premiere, the spark was instant, undeniable, and dangerously fast. Just 4 months later, they shocked everyone with a spontaneous Las Vegas wedding. In her memoir, Inside Out, Demi recalls Bruce suddenly turning to her at the Golden Nugget Hotel and blurting out, "I think we should get married." What started as a casual joke turned into a life-changing moment that sealed their fate. On the surface, it was a fairy tale come true. Two rising stars madly in love, ready to conquer the world together. They couldn't keep their hands off each other, and to Demi, nothing else mattered because the love felt that real, that powerful. But here's the twist. Inside that hotel room, Bruce also let slip something so revealing it would echo back years later as the very trigger that tore them apart. Even in their honeymoon glow, the storm was already brewing. Hollywood ate it up. They weren't just celebrities anymore. They were an empire. Magazine covers, red carpet glitz, private jets, and soon 3 daughters, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. Add in their Idaho ranch and blockbuster careers, and they looked like the walking, breathing version of the 90s American dream. To the public, they had it all, the picture-perfect family everyone envied. But behind the cameras and the glossy magazine spreads...
Are you surprised, Bruce Willis?
Yes.
Yes, I knew he would be. I mean, even though I went over everything yesterday, I knew he'd forget.
Tiny fractures began forming in their marriage. Cracks no one could see. And it wasn't one explosive fight that caused it, but a slow, creeping pressure that poisoned everything. The very thing that made them a power couple, their careers, became the same force that pushed them further apart. As each film sent them across the globe, the lovebirds who once couldn't stop touching suddenly found themselves living like strangers in 2 separate worlds. But the real problem wasn't just busy calendars or clashing schedules, it cut way deeper. At its core, Demi and Bruce wanted completely different lives. In her memoir, Demi revealed the raw truth. After their kids were born, she was ready to jump back into her passion, acting. But Bruce had a very different picture in mind. He wanted the perfect, traditional stay-at-home wife. And according to Demi, he flat out told her, "This is never going to work if you're off shooting a film." That wasn't a little disagreement, it was a full-blown battle of ideals playing out behind closed doors. And let's be real, every woman who's ever been told to shrink her dreams for the sake of her family knows exactly how crushing that feels. Experts even say this exact tug of war, career ambition versus traditional family roles, is one of the biggest deal breakers for high-powered couples. And Demi wasn't just any actress, she was blazing a trail, breaking records, and flipping the script on what women in Hollywood could achieve. After Ghost shattered the box office, Demi skyrocketed into superstardom. She followed it with A Few Good Men and Indecent Proposal, muscle, proving she wasn't just Bruce's wife, she was a force in her own right. But according to Demi, Bruce didn't celebrate her wins. Instead, he struggled with them.
That we did a magnificent job of making sure that our children knew they were loved.
She later admitted she felt he was tightening his grip, trying to control her, while she herself grew more rebellious, determined not to be boxed in. Her ambition, once a badge of pride in their relationship, was suddenly twisted into a threat to their family. To the public, they still looked like Hollywood's golden couple, dripping in glamour and success. But inside their home, the war lines were already drawn. And then came the moment that broke Demi's heart forever. Words Bruce allegedly said at the exact height of her career success. Words that cut deeper than any tabloid scandal, shaking her confidence and making her question their entire marriage. By the mid-90s, the whispers were everywhere. The conflicting schedules excuse stopped fooling anyone, and now the rumor mill was spinning with talk of betrayal and infidelity. The cheating rumors became an obsession. Tabloids in the 90s went wild, splashing front pages with lurid headlines like Inside Hollywood's Open Marriage Scandal and Chasing a Ghost Story. They painted Bruce and Demi's marriage as a ticking time bomb of temptation and betrayal, making it seem like Hollywood's biggest love story was collapsing under the weight of infidelity. The world ate it up, but according to Demi's own daughters, that wasn't the real story at all. Those headlines were nothing but a smokescreen, a distraction from what was really going down inside their home. And here's where it gets messy. Bruce himself added gasoline to the fire. He gave one interview that flipped the narrative on its head and left Demi reeling. Think about this. Have you ever felt pressured to give up your dreams, to shrink yourself just to keep your family together? Demi did, and it nearly destroyed her. While the press obsessed over rumors of affairs, the real war was the silent psychological battles that no one could see. When Bruce and Demi finally released their joint separation statement in 1998, it sounded clean and polished. They blamed their careers, offering the media a tidy little explanation. But behind the curtain, it wasn't neat at all. For Demi, that public statement was a flat-out oversimplification of years of emotional warfare. The rumors, the gossip, the interview sound bites, they weren't the root cause. They were symptoms of something way more poisonous festering in the shadows. And then came the interview that blew everything wide open. In a now infamous 1996 Playboy feature, Bruce mused out loud about monogamy, asking, "What is the impulse? The impulse is to procreate, procreate, procreate." The tabloids treated it like a confession, feeding the belief that their marriage had been open for years. It became the accepted story, the tragic tale of another Hollywood couple undone by infidelity. But here's the gut punch. The Playboy interview wasn't the real heartbreak. What Bruce allegedly told Demi in private, words she later revealed in her memoir, cut deeper than any tabloid headline ever could. That was the moment that shattered her confidence and made her realize her marriage was already crumbling from the inside out. But even after all the tabloid chaos, the cheating whispers, and the career clash rumors, none of that was the real betrayal. For years, the world believed Bruce and Demi's split came down to infidelity or the strain of two mega careers colliding. But when Demi finally peeled back the curtain in Inside Out, the truth hit harder than any affair scandal ever could. The deepest wound wasn't about another woman, it was about power and Bruce's unease with hers. In her memoir, Demi painted a haunting contradiction. Bruce could be her loudest cheerleader one moment and her sharpest critic the next. And this contradiction exploded when she made history as the highest paid actress in Hollywood, raking in a jaw-dropping $12.5 million for striptease. What should have been a champagne-soaked celebration of triumph turned into tension at home. While the world was applauding her, Demi says she felt judged under her own roof. Every woman who's ever had to dim her shine to keep a man comfortable knows that sting. Experts say it's a dilemma many ambitious women face. Do you sacrifice your own light to protect your marriage? Or do you risk losing it all by standing tall? For Demi, the answer came in the most painful way imaginable. The breaking point wasn't some screaming match or dramatic Hollywood blowout. It was quieter, sharper, and far more devastating. According to Demi, Bruce looked at her at the very height of her success and told her he wasn't even sure he wanted to be married anymore. That wasn't doubt, that was demolition. The ultimate betrayal wasn't a mistress. It wasn't fame. It was realizing his love came with strings attached. As long as she stayed small, as long as she didn't shine too brightly, she was safe. But the second her success outgrew his comfort zone, the foundation of their marriage cracked beyond repair. In that chilling moment, Demi faced an impossible choice: play small to keep him or walk away and finally save herself. The quiet devastation of Bruce's words didn't just bruise Demi, it cut straight to her core. Imagine reaching the very top of your career, breaking records, proving to the world that you weren't just a pretty face but a powerhouse, and then hearing the man you built a life with say he wasn't sure he even wanted to be married anymore. That wasn't a passing doubt, it was a wrecking ball smashing through everything Demi thought was solid. For years, Demi had carried the pressure of being not only Bruce's wife but also a mother, a megastar, and a symbol of Hollywood's golden era of power couples. To the outside world, they were untouchable. Red carpets, magazine covers, blockbuster hits, 3 adorable daughters running around their Idaho ranch. But inside their home, things were different. Bruce's unease with her power had seeped into every corner of their marriage, poisoning the air with unspoken resentment. And Demi felt it every single day. She later admitted in Inside Out that what should have been the happiest time of her life became the most confusing. The higher she climbed, the more isolated she felt. Her wins weren't celebrated at home, they were questioned, criticized, or met with silence. And that silence screamed louder than any tabloid headline ever could. Demi wrote that she started second-guessing herself, wondering if she was the problem. Was she being too ambitious, too independent, too rebellious for the marriage she was supposed to maintain? This wasn't just marital tension, it was psychological warfare, and the battlefield was her own mind. Meanwhile, the world kept spinning around them, and Hollywood wasn't about to let go of its obsession with their marriage. Every event, every appearance, every tiny expression on the red carpet was dissected for signs of trouble. If Bruce stood too far away, rumors swirled. If Demi appeared at a premiere without him, speculation erupted. The media loved the idea of cracks in the perfect power couple, but what no one realized was that the real cracks weren't cosmetic, they were structural. Bruce's infamous Playboy interview in 1996 didn't help either. His casual musing about monogamy, saying the natural impulse was to procreate, 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 was treated like a confession by the press. Tabloids ran with the idea that their marriage was an open one, that Bruce was cheating, that Demi had to silently endure it. The scandal sold magazines, but according to Demi, the truth was darker in a different way. The betrayal wasn't about women, it was about respect, or rather the lack of it. And yet, here's where things get even more heartbreaking. Demi was still deeply in love with Bruce. Despite the cracks, despite the contradictions, she wanted desperately to save their marriage. She believed in family. She believed in the vows they took. She wanted her daughters to grow up with both parents together, not split between two worlds. So she tried. She tried harder than anyone could imagine. She bent herself into shapes, softened her ambition, tried to be smaller, quieter, more manageable. But love with conditions isn't love, it's control. And Demi started to realize that no matter what she did, it would never be enough. If she worked, it was wrong. If she stayed home, she was restless. If she shined, it was threatening. If she dimmed, she disappeared. She was trapped in an impossible loop, one that was slowly breaking her spirit. Marriage counselors often talk about death by 1,000 cuts. The idea that most marriages don't explode in a single dramatic fight, but rather unravel slowly from repeated small wounds. That's exactly what was happening here. Each dismissive comment, each judgmental look, each undermining word chipped away at the foundation until there was nothing left to stand on. And Bruce's star power only amplified the imbalance. As he dominated the box office with the Die Hard franchise, Demi felt the weight of double standards pressing on her. When Bruce worked nonstop, it was admirable. He was the hard-working provider. But when Demi chased her career, it was selfish, a threat to the family dynamic. That hypocrisy became unbearable. In private, Bruce's words grew sharper. According to Demi, he told her directly that he wasn't sure marriage was what he wanted anymore. Can you imagine? To have 3 kids together, to have built an empire side by side, and suddenly hear the man at the center of it all questioning whether he even wanted to be there. That wasn't just cold, it was shattering. By the late 90s, the emotional toll was undeniable. Demi's confidence had been shaken, her marriage was crumbling, and the tabloids were circling like vultures. Their 1998 separation statement read like a polished Hollywood PR release, citing careers as the reason for their split. But behind that polite facade was a woman who had finally realized the cost of staying in a marriage where her success, her independence, and her light weren't welcomed. They were resented. Demi later admitted that choosing to leave was terrifying. For 2 decades, she had been one half of Hollywood's most glamorous couple. Walking away meant facing the world as Demi Moore alone. It meant rebuilding her life from the ground up. But it also meant freedom, the freedom to be herself without shrinking, without apologizing, without being told she was too much. Looking back, the public story of Bruce and Demi's divorce was always painted in broad strokes. 2 careers, too much time apart, the usual Hollywood ending. But the truth is far more complex and far more human. It wasn't about distance, it wasn't about infidelity, it was about dignity, about a woman refusing to live in the shadow of a man's insecurity. Demi's journey is a reminder that sometimes the hardest battles aren't the ones fought in public, but the ones fought in silence, behind closed doors, where no one sees the tears, the doubts, the late-night questions of, am I enough? She wasn't just leaving a marriage, she was reclaiming her life. And here's the kicker, every single woman who's ever been told to tone herself down to be less for the sake of keeping a man happy will recognize that moment. Because it's not just Demi's story, it's universal. The betrayal wasn't Bruce with another woman. The betrayal was Bruce not being able to stand beside her as an equal. When Demi walked away, she wasn't just divorcing Bruce Willis, she was divorcing the idea that her worth had to be measured against a man's comfort. And that decision, as painful as it was, became the beginning of her real freedom. She chose herself, and that choice wasn't weakness, it was survival. Demi's divorce wasn't a surrender, it was an act of reclaiming her power, a moment where she decided her worth wasn't negotiable. That single decision forced her into an impossible crossroad, and what she chose didn't just change her life, it reshaped how Hollywood viewed divorce itself. But the twist? Their story didn't end with court papers. In fact, what Bruce and Demi did after the marriage shocked everyone even more than the split. When Demi Moore and Bruce Willis announced their divorce in 2000, Hollywood geared up for a bloodbath, custody wars, financial fights, ugly headlines. Instead, they flipped the script and did something no one saw coming. They chose peace. In her memoir, Inside Out, Demi even confessed, "It's a funny thing to say, but I'm very proud of our divorce." And she had every reason to be. She and Bruce made a pact. Their children came first, no matter what. It was a conscious decision to strip away the bitterness and replace it with respect. That decision changed everything. Their daughter, Scout Willis, later reflected on it, saying, "They did a magnificent job of making sure we always knew we were loved." Rumor Willis echoed the same thing, explaining that she never once felt like she had to choose between her parents. For kids in Hollywood, where divorce usually turns into a battlefield, this was unheard of. And they didn't just talk the talk, they lived it. When Demi married Ashton Kutcher, Bruce didn't sulk or sabotage. He showed up supportive. When Bruce later married Emma Hemming, Demi and the daughters were right there to celebrate. They didn't shrink their family, they expanded it. They called themselves a tribe, and that tribe just kept growing. Holidays? Spent together, vacations, shared, and the ultimate shocker, they even quarantined together during the pandemic in 2020. The world couldn't believe it. Ex-spouses, current spouses, kids, everyone under the same roof, proving that family is what you choose to make it. Demi even admitted that, oddly enough, after the divorce, we actually felt more connected than we did before. By cutting out the toxic pressures of marriage, they gave themselves the freedom to become something else entirely. The best of friends and the strongest co-parents Hollywood had ever seen. But don't be fooled. Demi's quiet grace didn't mean she had forgiven everything. Her silence wasn't submission, it was strategy. She knew the world wasn't ready for her truth back then. She knew if she spoke too soon, her story would be drowned out by gossip, so she waited. And when she finally broke her silence decades later with Inside Out, the bombshell landed harder than ever before. For years, the public clung to the old narrative: cheating, careers, distance. But when Demi opened up, she revealed something far deeper, a psychological battle that no tabloid had ever captured. And suddenly, the entire story of her marriage took on new meaning. Her memoir came out in 2019, and fans were stunned by how candid she was. But in the years since, as Bruce's health battles became public, her reflections have gained an even sharper edge. It's almost poetic. Her words, written long before, now carry a haunting resonance as the world sees Bruce in a different light. So why speak so candidly now after all these years of silence? The answer seems to lie in one word: perspective. Demi wasn't just exposing the pain, she was showing how she transformed it. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it gave her the strength to own it. And in telling her truth, she wasn't tearing Bruce down, she was lifting herself up, finally unshackled from the narrative the tabloids had written for her. She kept her silence for decades, but the sting of betrayal never truly faded. And when Demi finally spoke, the truth shattered everything fans thought they knew. The scandal wasn't about another woman or about the chaos of fame. The real betrayal had been hiding in plain sight all along, and Demi only revealed it when she was ready, on her own terms. Her timing mattered. Speaking out now wasn't about revenge or dragging up old pain, it was about healing. With Bruce's health struggles, Demi's words took on a whole new weight. Instead of sounding like accusations, her revelations became reflections, an honest accounting of the past, told with compassion for the man who, despite everything, will always be her family. She's even praised Bruce's wife, Emma Hemming Willis, for her strength and grace during these difficult years, as their entire blended family has stood together in solidarity. When Bruce's devastating diagnosis of frontotemporal dementia was shared publicly in February 2023, it shifted everything. Suddenly, Demi's story wasn't just about survival, it was about perspective. Her interviews now are softer, filled with understanding rather than blame. She stressed the importance of meeting Bruce where he is today, not holding him to the man he once was. That shift transformed her memoir from a scandalous expose into something much deeper, a roadmap of closure, forgiveness, and truth. For Demi, telling her story now is the final chapter in her healing. It's her reclaiming her narrative after decades of silence, proving that honesty can coexist with love, even for someone you're no longer with. Her truth no longer reads as bitterness. It reads as closure, as strength, as dignity. And that's what makes this story so extraordinary. Demi Moore is no longer defined as just Bruce Willis's ex-wife. She's a survivor who chose herself when it mattered most. She transformed heartbreak into wisdom, pain into purpose, and silence into power. Bruce may have been Hollywood's ultimate action hero, but Demi showed the world that the bravest role a woman can play is refusing to dim her own light for anyone. Their marriage ended in heartbreak, but their story became so much more. It's a lesson in dignity, in forgiveness, and in the courage it takes to step away when love comes with conditions. Demi's divorce wasn't an ending, it was the moment she reclaimed her story, and what makes it even more powerful is that Bruce and Demi turned the wreckage of their divorce into something almost unthinkable in Hollywood, a united family. They proved love doesn't always have to die. It can change shape, evolve, and grow without getting smaller. Through her honesty, Demi Moore didn't just rewrite the history of her marriage. She gave the world a lesson in self-worth and resilience. She reminded us that real strength isn't about clinging to a fairy tale, but about walking away from anything that forces you to shrink yourself. Their journey shows us that sometimes the deepest kind of love isn't found in a picture-perfect marriage. It's found in lifelong loyalty to family, no matter how unconventional it looks. That's the legacy Bruce and Demi leave behind together. Love reshaped, but never destroyed. So now the question falls to you. Was Demi right to walk away when she did? Or should she have fought harder to save the marriage? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take on one of Hollywood's most unforgettable love stories. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder of what true strength looks like. See you on the next one.